Thousands of immigrant children await in government shelters. Kashmiri freedom leader dead in Indian prison. Physicians, epidemiologists warn that U.S. is vulnerable to winter COVID surge. 12-year-old succumbs to injuries as Israeli forces kill 4 Palestinian teenagers. Iranian state TV targeted by Hacktivist group during main news program. From Chicago studios, this is the Muslim News on Muslim Network TV. Assalamu alaikum, I'm Samana Siddiqui. Our top story tonight. As of this week, more than 9,000 unaccompanied immigrant children remain in federal U.S. custody, according to data from the Office of Refugee Resettlement, ProPublica reports. A majority is children and teens from Central America who crossed over at the U.S.-Mexico border without a parent or legal guardian. The shelter system is designed to house these children temporarily. The average length of stay is about a month until they can be placed with a relative, family friend, or in some cases in foster care. But now a system whose goal is to protect young immigrants in the U.S. while they await new homes has instead led to prolonged stays in federal custody, experts say. ProPublica reports that there's been little scrutiny of what's happening inside shelters and facilities housing immigrant children since former President Donald Trump left office. The shelter system remains in place under President Joe Biden. But the Trump administration's zero-tolerance policy, which separated families at the southern border, has ended. A union representing railroad maintenance and construction workers on Monday announced its members have rejected a tentative agreement with rail carriers. The move puts pressure on the carriers to offer a better deal to workers to avoid a nationwide strike. The Brotherhood of Maintenance of Way Employees Division said over 6,000 people voted against ratifying the agreement and 5,100 supported the deal. The tentative agreement was brokered last month with the help of the Biden administration's Presidential Emergency Board. It would include 1 additional paid day off and permit workers to take unpaid days to receive medical care without being penalized. A group of physicians, epidemiologists, and other experts warned in an open letter published Friday that COVID-19 remains a deadly and disabling threat. The letter refutes President Joe Biden's recent claim that the pandemic is over. The United States is ill-prepared for a possible winter surge fueled by the emergence of new Omicron strains, the experts said. Only 4% of eligible Americans have received the new bivalent booster tailored to protect against the dominant subvariant. Recent polling found more than half of fully vaccinated adults don't know they're eligible for the shot. Less than 1/3 of those surveyed say they plan to get their 4th vaccine dose. Halal certification is required for market expansion and export of food, beverage, and many consumer products in Singapore and Southeast Asia. Now, Islamic Services of America is among the few U.S. halal certifiers recognized by the Islamic Religious Council of Singapore. ISA recently welcomed a delegation from the Islamic Religious Council of Singapore to its office in Cedar Rapids, Iowa. The two groups discussed the U.S. halal industry and international halal standards applied by recognized and reputable certifiers globally. Jalal Aosi, ISA president, said the meeting further solidified ISA's commitment to Southeast Asian economies and their growing halal consumer base. Palestinian officials and rights groups say more than 165 people have been killed by Israeli forces this year, including at least 14 women and 34 children. 5 Palestinian children have died at the hands of Israeli occupation forces since Friday alone. That includes a 12-year-old boy wounded by Israeli gunfire last month, who died Monday. Middle East Eye reports Mahmoud Mohammed Samoudi succumbed to wounds sustained on September 28. Israeli forces shot him in the stomach with live ammunition during an Operation Break the Wave raid on a Jenin refugee camp. There's been an increase in armed resistance to the occupation of the camp in recent months. Samoudi is the 44th Palestinian killed by Israeli troops in Jenin this year. Kashmiri freedom leader dead in Indian prison. Details after the break, so stay tuned, and we'll be right back after these messages.
A free 3-minute online chat can give you the personalized tips you need to start boosting your retirement savings today.
I am what hunger looks like in America.
If I could be you, and you could be me for just 1 hour. If we could find a way to get inside each other's minds. Walk a mile in my shoes. Walk a mile in my shoes. Well, before you abuse, criticize, and accuse, walk a mile in my shoes.
There are 16 million children struggling with hunger in America. That's 1 in 5 daughters, sons, neighbors, and classmates who don't know where their next meal is coming from. Yet billions of pounds of good food go to waste every year. It's time we do something about it. Feeding America is a nationwide network of food banks that helps provide meals to millions of kids and families in need. Visit feedingamerica.org to help them feed even more. Together, we can solve hunger. Together, we're feeding America.
We are Justice for All. Headquartered in the heart of downtown Chicago, Justice for All is a global humanitarian initiative dedicated to raising awareness for human rights concerns impacting vulnerable minority groups. Our diverse team of staff and volunteers, led by Imam Malik Mujahid, work tirelessly to help Justice for All achieve their goals. We promote policies that protect religious freedom, address the root causes of mass displacement, and recognize the plight of refugees and forced migrants. Together, we can continue to stand up for justice. Justice for all.
To stop this genocide, we need your help.
Welcome back. Kashmiri pro-freedom leader Altaf Ahmad Shah died in Indian custody on Monday in New Delhi, weeks after being diagnosed with end-stage renal cancer. Justice for All tweeted, "Shah is a victim of a custodial killing." The U.S.-based human rights group claims Shah was deliberately denied necessary and timely medical care by the Indian government. Shah had been in prison for the last 6 years in New Delhi. His family was not allowed to meet or see him, even on his deathbed, the group said. Pakistani Prime Minister Shehbaz Sharif offered condolences on the death of the leader of the Tehreek-e-Hurriyat group. Sharif tweeted that the regime of India's Narendra Modi denied treatment despite knowing that Shah was a cancer patient. He added that custodial killings are the norm in Modi's India. Shah is the third Kashmiri political prisoner to die during incarceration. Hate crimes in the UK are on the rise because the government tries to appease the far right by adopting some of their positions, a prominent Muslim scholar said. Anas Al-Tikriti, CEO of the Cordoba Foundation, told Andalu agency the British Muslim community has sensed a tangible rise in far-right and far-right groups in government. His comments came after the publication of Home Office statistics showing Islamophobic hate crimes in England and Wales skyrocketed last year. Muslims were the most targeted group for the year ending in March. Police recorded over 3,000 religious hate crimes targeting Muslims, a 42% increase over last year. 4 months after Pakistan endured record monsoon rains linked to climate change, standing floodwater has turned into a breeding ground for malaria, cholera, and dengue. The United Nations has warned of a second wave of catastrophe in the country. The risk of deaths from waterborne disease and malnutrition could surpass the 1,700 drowned and electrocuted in the initial cascade, the agency said. Amir Hussein's home in southern Pakistan is surrounded by such fetid floodwaters. At dusk, Hussein's submerged village in Dadu district of Sindh province is invaded by a whirlwind of mosquitoes. The 25-year-old fears they will infect his wife and 2 children. Sindh is worst hit by the catastrophic flooding, which put a third of Pakistan underwater, displacing 8 million people. Roughly 2 million homes have been destroyed or damaged, and 1,500 hospitals and clinics have been crippled by the flooding. 2 Bangladeshi citizens were shot dead early Sunday, allegedly by the Indian Border Security Force in separate incidents, officials said. Both men were shot while allegedly trying to cross over illegally to smuggle goods and cattle, officials said. Border Guard Bangladesh's Lieutenant Colonel Faizur Rahman said flag meetings at the battalion level are set for noon Sunday, where we will strongly protest the deaths. The BSF did not confirm or deny the firing, he added. The 2 South Asian countries share a 2,545-mile land border, the 5th longest in the world. Iranian state television was hacked Saturday by a hacktivist group while its main news program was being broadcast. A speech by Supreme Leader Ayatollah Ali Khamenei on the evening news was interrupted briefly. The footage was replaced with Khamenei's picture surrounded by flames next to images of Mahsa Amini and 3 women allegedly killed during protests. Women, life and freedom could be heard in the video, targeting Khamenei with the words, "Join us and stand up." Hacktivist group Adalat Ali, which previously carried out cyber attacks against the Iranian government, claimed responsibility for the attack on Twitter. Iranian state television faced a similar cyber attack in January. Indonesia said Friday the UN's human rights body should not be used for purposes of political rivalry. The world's largest Muslim nation voted against a U.S.-led proposal to debate China's alleged human rights abuses against the Muslim Uyghur minority. The UN Human Rights Council voted 19 to 17 on Thursday against having the debate, drawing the ire of Uyghur and other human rights advocates. They accused the governments in the voting majority of pandering to China. Indonesia was among the members who voted to block discussion of a UN report which found Beijing's abuses against Uyghurs could constitute crimes against humanity. Other Muslim countries that rejected the proposal were Pakistan, Kazakhstan, Qatar, the United Arab Emirates, and Uzbekistan. Coming up next after the break is our in-depth analysis segment, so stay tuned and we'll be right back after these messages.
A free 3-minute online chat can give you the personalized tips you need to start boosting your retirement savings today.
If I could be you, and you could be me for just 1 hour. Walk a mile in my shoes. Walk a mile in my shoes. If I could be you, and you could be me for just 1 hour. If we could find a way to get inside each other's minds. Walk a mile in my shoes. Walk a mile in my shoes. Well, before you abuse, criticize and accuse. Walk a mile in my shoes.
A free 3-minute online chat can give you the personalized tips you need to start boosting your retirement savings today.
To stop this genocide, we need your help.
Welcome back. To discuss the custodial killing of Altaf Shah, let's go to Edward Ahmed Mitchell. Over to you, Edward.
Thank you, Samana. Now we move to Kashmir and a discussion of the passing of a very important leader there who impacted the struggle for Kashmiri freedom and is being mourned by many people around the world. To discuss his passing and who he was and what his life was and what his impact was, I'd like to welcome our special guest, Dr. Mubeen Shah, who is the former president of the Jammu-Kashmir Joint Chamber of Commerce and Industry and former president of the Kashmir Chamber of Commerce and Industry and the director of the Kashmir House in Turkey. He joins us from Istanbul. Assalamu alaikum, Dr. Shah. How are you?
Wa alaikum assalam.
Alhamdulillah. Thank you so much for joining us. Alhamdulillah. Let me start asking a simple question. Tell us about this person. Who was he, and what did he do that has made him so well known, not only in Kashmir and India, but around the world?
You know, he was a very important Hurriyat leader. Hurriyat, is sort of for freedom, of Kashmir, and is an organization, of freedom-loving people. And he was imprisoned for the last 5 years from 2017, and he was he was a son-in-law of our most prominent leader, Ali Shah Gilani, Sahab. And he was, before 2019, India created a situation where a lot of Hurriyat leaders were arrested on trumped up cases like, trumped up cases of funding, and then he was arrested besides other leaders. And he, unfortunately, he was a diabetic patient, and he then developed carcinoma of the kidneys, and he was not given any treatment. And even when his family members, tried to ask the government of India through different, things like the court, and finally the court ordered that he should be sent to a hospital where there are facilities to check him up. They had taken him from the prison to a hospital. We did not have even the PET scan, and he was then diagnosed for renal carcinoma, and then unfortunately he died. And and the dead body was not even handed over without, there a lot of delay, and now finally it has been handed over to the
Dr. Shah, can you tell us about? Thank you for sharing that. And so, how old was he? And tell us about his life. What obviously he's the son-in-law of a prominent leader. Can you talk about his contributions to the struggle for Kashmiri freedom against India's fascist government?
No, he was 66 years old, and he was an important confidant of the most prominent leader, Ali Shah Gilani, and he used to be the person who would sort of contact the other leadership on behalf of Gilani Sahab, and that is why his role was very important. And in the end years of life of Ali Shah Gilani, losing such a confidant in the sense of being imprisoned was also a setback to the movement to a great extent. And wherever and whenever, for example, I also met him a number of times, particularly after 2008, when there was a movement against the Amarnath Rao and Amarnath giving of land in Amarnath. And he was very, very prominently in arranging all the conferences, all the meetings in the Hurriyat office as such. And at the same time, he was sort of a person who would be advising the leadership about what to do, what not to do. And in such things, there are certain people who are having an important role in putting forward the viewpoints of the freedom-fighting people.
Understood, Dr. Shah. Tell us about the other the other Kashmiri leaders who are illegally detained by the Indian government. Are there many others? Anyone else whose health is in danger? Tell us about the status of other Kashmiri leaders.
No, there are, the number of freedom-loving people, and besides the leaders, are imprisoned. And one of the most prominent one is Mr. Muhammad Yasin Malik, who's having a heart problem and number of health problems, and he has also been incarcerated with these trumped up cases. And after 9/11, India has taken full advantage of the world in the world that whatever things they can put up any trumped up charges, they label them as terrorists, label them as funding of terrorism. While this is the unfortunate part, that the world has been silent regarding, because no Kashmiri is a terrorist, he's a freedom fighter. That's the basic thing, and this is where the problem lies in the narrative building in the Western world, particularly. And while as the Ukraine people are considered to be freedom fighters, while as Kashmiris who have been fighting for the last 70 years are labeled as terrorists, and any anything is labeled as terrorist funding. This is the basic problem, and this is where we we have not been able, unfortunately, develop that narrative.
So, what impact does his passing have on the Kashmiri people and the struggle for freedom? Where does it go from here in the wake of this? Will his passing, his death in custody, lead to more unrest, increase the struggle for freedom, or is it a blow to the movement? What are your thoughts?
Oh, it is certainly a blow to the movement, but at the same time, the outside world had to understand that after 2019, they have made examples, particularly examples of people being arrested and then not being given their day in the court. We have to understand that after 2017, he was put in a jail where there is, first of all, no hearing for the first 2 years, and after that, and taking cover of the judicial system in India, they prolong those cases so that they certainly not able to get any justice from the Indian justice system. So and the impact is this thing that the Indian government with incarceration of these type of freedom fighters, leaders, give a certain thing to the Kashmiri people there that nobody is safe. So because even the world is not speaking about us, even the world is not making a cry. Yes, this thing now because this labeling is very, very important, and this is where India has been successful, and this is the most important part of it. And what I feel is that the dissent will grow, it will not stop, but it is like a lava, when it can come out any time, and it's going to come out, inshallah.
So then what is your hope for the future in light of the Indian government's kind of shift towards this far-right extremism inspired by the BJP and the Hindutva movement, the stalemate militarily between Pakistan and India? What is your hope for the future? Is it free elections in Kashmir, independence? What's the goal in the long term and short term, God willing?
You see, the only goal for which Kashmiris are fighting is the right to self-determination, which has been based on the resolution of the United Nations, and that is the goal. Elections and all do not matter for our freedom movement. Elections is a sort of for the Indian government. They try to tell to the world that this is what that Kashmiris want, but that is even in the UN Security Council resolutions. You can have a local administration to do day in day out work, as to run an administration, to run a government, but not the government of the people, what they want, and they have not been given that right of self-determination, that which country, or whether they want to be free, whether they want to be part of Pakistan or part of India. That is the ultimate. No elections. This is all, sort of that is not our what we want to be. That is the main thing.
Absolutely, the right to choose, in line with what was agreed years ago, decades ago, and that has been denied.
70 years back, 48. Yeah, exactly.
And that has been denied to people of Kashmir. Well, I think, would you agree, Dr. Shah, an important part of this is raising awareness around the world? Obviously, Muslims around the world are very concerned about the plight of so many people, Palestinians, Uyghurs, including Kashmiris, but I suspect in America anyway, there's not as much attention paid to Kashmir. So any advice you would give to American Muslims about what you'd like to see the United States government be doing to help push things toward a just resolution?
See, I will give you a very simple, one example of, I wrote on my Twitter that, difference between Israelis and Indians is that Israelis at least allow Palestinians to cry. Indians don't even allow us to cry. Their cruelties even show that the body is not released, still to be transferred to Kashmir. This I wrote some 11 hours back because at that time the body was being delayed. Number one. Number two is that America is the power which can do changes, and through if they are transparent about what is the international rule. While as in the case of Ukraine, they are saying to the world that we want international order, while in the case of India, because of its problem with China, they are keeping silent and keeping its eyes closed. Although, let me be very clear also at the same time, for I was arrested in 2019 myself, and I was released within 4 months only on the pressure of United States. Because if you see the record, my name was mentioned in the Senate hearings, and it was because of the then US government, although it was under Trump, but they made it sure that I was released. And although, this is where the important, all our prisoners, and let me be very clear also another thing, United States was the country which, as per WikiLeaks, also, sort of gave the necessary assurance to one of our freedom fighter leaders, Yasin Malik, whom I mentioned before, who is ill, to leave arms and fight this without arms. That is on the Gandhian system. And today, America is not supporting the gentleman to be released because he had left arms on the assurance of powers like America to be released. And he's not being released. America is not fighting for him. America is fighting for the Ukrainian person. Yes, they may be doing the right thing there, but why not about Kashmir?
We all know the answer to that, sadly. But certainly you have the solidarity of the Muslim community and many people who support human rights for all around the world. And we thank you for joining us, Dr. Shah. And we look forward to having you back to discuss the latest developments and hopefully progress in the struggle for Kashmiri self-determination and freedom and independence. Thank you so much, Dr. Shah. We'll talk soon, inshallah.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much for having me.
Thank you. Thank you for joining us. And we'll send it back to you, Samana.
Thank you. That's all from our Chicago studios tonight. Thank you for tuning in. You can find previous episodes and more on our YouTube or Facebook. For more content, keep watching Muslim Network TV or visit muslimnetwork.tv. Salam and good night.